G'day guys, welcome to another episode of the Pumped on Property Show. Now, I'm not going to lie, man, we've done a lot of content together over the years, but this is by far the most meaningful, purposeful, to me, fun-filled, good banter podcast we've ever done together. I really enjoyed doing this with you.
It's been really fun, talking about those stories when we're in our teens and early 20s, being broke as shit and not having anything to our names, to then where we are today and reminiscing and looking back on that journey. Plus also, thinking about why we're doing this and what's going to come in the future as well. But I don't think you or I have ever shared so much personal information or so many personal stories like we have today.
Can you remember a particular time when you decided that you wanted to become wealthy or a millionaire or financially free or to live a life filled with choices through property? Was there a distinct aha moment for you, or was it more just a natural evolution towards that way?
Yeah, I think the latter for me. I've never put that much value on money personally, but I have put a lot of value on experiences. And so I think for me, it's always come from a point of being, I want to be able to do these things, and to be able to do these things, I need to be able to pay for them. We're literally just talking off camera about some of the snow holidays that we've done, and you've got one coming up this year and I've got one coming up this year, and you're taking the kids, and freaking expensive.
Tell me about it.
So it's you need to be able to pay for these experiences. So for me, there was never this penny drop moment necessarily where it was I need to do this because the byproduct is going to be more experiences at the end of the day. So yeah, I think for me, how I operate in life, it's not so much about, real tangible goals. It's more about just going with the flow, enjoying the journey as it unfolds, and making those necessary adjustments along the way as well, because
Here's some new information, some new ideas, and I'm going to take that and run with it and turn it into something great.
yeah. And remember that old quote that we had on the wall in the office when I first started? It was the Les Brown quote. It was help others achieve their dreams and you will achieve yours.
Was that under the don't say dumb shit sign? Okay.
That's still there.
No, what was that quote again? I love that.
It's, help others achieve their dreams and you will achieve yours. And I just found a lot of a lot of depth to that as well. It's the byproduct of doing good work, the byproduct of being a good person, the byproduct of helping people solve problems is you get remunerated for it, you get paid for it. And, I feel as though that's my life. It's I don't need by this point in time, I want this number of properties or I want this net worth, but just the daily discipline, the Kaizen mentality, it just, naturally unfolds. But I feel as though that's me as a fourth child, it's a very different mentality being that forgotten fourth child, being to that you're the first child that's got all the pressure. You feel as though you've got the weight of the family on your shoulders. I guess for you, it would be a lot different. I know your mentality is quite different to mine. Obviously, we're all about those experiences, but how do you feel about that? You're so far into this journey so far now. I remember when we were having conversations in the spa when you were 20, 21, 22 years of age. It's almost 20 years ago now. So what was that for you?
I can remember being 3 months old and just thinking, fuck yeah, let's go.
Legit.
I was just
Probably already crawling.
I wasn't even walking yet, and I was I know what's up. It's I don't want to be I never want to be a broke.
Oh, that's classic. Living in a caravan and just got there's still trauma to this day.
There is trauma. I remember used to hearing, we did live in a caravan for a while, but it wasn't full household life. It was in the driveway of our northern beaches grandparents' house. So it was living the good life in the van, and it was only because mum and dad was saving their ass off to get us into our first home. I think about the sacrifice they made to do that, and I also think about it now, why the fuck didn't they let us stay in the house? I'm just
no one else was there, right?
No one else was there.
No aunties or uncles, no cousins.
There was that big room down the bottom.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that's Omar
different
and Opar.
times. Omar and Opar. But yeah, I think for me, it happened early. Like I do remember really distinctly a trip to Mollymook when I was in primary school, and I've told you this before. And there was a house on the beach, and I was just getting into bodyboarding and surfing and golf and just loving it, soccer. And I'm like, we could have a house like
How old were you?
next
Primary
to the
school?
beach. Yeah, man, like we were young. Like I would have, it was before we left Caldara and Engadine. So we were young. Like I left there in year 6.
Yeah, because like I feel as though mum and dad acted like they were broke until like I was in my teens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
So
they
like they
weren't at
probably
all.
passed a lot of that on to you as well.
Yeah, like there was just, I just remember there was a lot of conversations about not having enough, and who would have had enough when interest rates were at 17%? I don't know how they survived. But I do remember this one trip, and we saw this piece of land with this little beach shack, like one house from the beach, and mum and dad could pick it up for like 70 to 90K. I remember it so distinctly, and I remember listening to them all the way home, which was rare because like Britney Spears and the Backstreet Boys were cranking at that time and we had all their CDs.
Dad didn't have his talkback radio on to put us all to sleep.
Exactly. They were like talking, and they're like, they got to the point where by the time they got home, they're like, we're going to buy it. And then I was like, yes, we're going to have like this walk to beach surf lifestyle. And then nothing ever happened after that. And I remember asking about it, and they're like, it just sort of went away. And then that same property, like now would be worth like 1.5 million bucks at least.
Easy.
And so I remember like, it's a weird thing. Like I remember making these like covenants, what would you call it? Like commitments to myself.
Yeah.
Really
like a promise.
young. And I'm like, I didn't get it. Even at that age, I'm like, why wouldn't you do this? Because mum and dad did do it rough, but it's only because they busted their asses off to wipe the debt on their home.
What do you think made you value property at that age? Because like, was it just
Nothing.
Was it the lifestyle? Being
was
like,
the
I want to be close
lifestyle.
to the beach.
And that was my honest driver until I was in my mid 30s. Like it was like,
I want to live by the beach.
my whole dream was like, I always wanted to hear the sound of the waves at night. And I did achieve that dream. And then my wife wanted me to sell that home, and she had another dream for us, which we're living now, which I love too. But I just wanted to be walking distance to multiple waves and hear the ocean at night. And that was all I defined success at until I was probably like 30 something.
Yeah, it's so funny to see though, because like obviously witnessing all of your funny, stupid businesses over the years as well, like your lemonade stands and your t-shirt brands and all of these different things that you tried. So you've always been like that entrepreneurial mindset where it's like, let's give it a crack. And you know, I love Dad's quote that he used to teach us, and he even said it to me when we were down there. He's like, nothing from nothing is nothing. Yeah. And I think we always just are willing to give something a crack, to see if it fruits anything. If it does, cool. If it doesn't, there's always a lesson to be learned, right?
Yeah, and so you sort of mentioned that like fast forwarding through that there wasn't this like aha moment, but let's talk about like some of the experiences you had, because you said something funny when we were making a cuppa before this, which is like, you really didn't fucking think about anything until you're in a certain age.
Honestly, like I think until I was about 22, it just wasn't on my radar. I was just living life, you know, like what do they say? Like a feather in the wind.
A Dogtown Z-boy.
Yeah, legit. Like that was probably my favorite movie back then as well. But look, for me, you know, I've always had a good work ethic. Like Dad, that's one thing that Dad passed on to us, and seeing you and Kylie and Crystal before me, like every single one of us got a job at an early age. I started working at 13 for $5 an hour in the local pizza shop, Nino's in Engadine.
I want to talk about this in a second.
We used to go there, like at least once a month, maybe even once a fortnight. And it was sort of like the family night out. And it was just this like traditional Italian restaurant. It was so good. And we knew the owner, Nino, and he gave us a job for $5 an hour.
He was rough,
dishes.
eh? By that point, minimum wages were 10, but Simon was happy to work for 5.
That's the thing.
Get slapped with the dish rag from Nino.
But then I was like, you know, literally like 3 shifts in, I'm like, I want to make the pizzas. I don't want to wash the dishes. And he's like, cool.
We'll
you can graduate
to that in 2 years.
No, he was like, cool. And then I'm
Really?
like, I don't want to work for $5 an hour. And he's like, well, I'm not going to increase your wage. So I'm like, well, I'm out of it. I've then walked out of there and walked up to Gloria Jeans and handed in my resume because a couple of my friends worked at the local coffee shop.
I've had 3 shifts at Dino's.
Legit, it was like, honestly, 2 or 3 weeks. I'm like, I'm out of here. Went to Gloria Jeans, got a job there where I worked with my 2 next door neighbors, their cousin, and just like the coolest people ever. And like, we're just in there serving coffee to these coffee addicts. And I was always like, I'll never be like that. I'll never be like that. Fast forward to now, I'm a bloody coffee snob as well. But like, started working early and, you know, always had that mentality of like work, earn some money, but I would just spend it. And, you know, I just didn't really think about anything more so than just like working is life. Like, it's just a part of life. It's just what we do.
Bikes, bodyboards, surfboards, trips.
That's it. And I've always done that. And then, you know, 17, got my license, went and got a job at the local pizza shop delivering pizzas, and
Widows.
you know, that was sick. $15 an hour plus the tips. I remember one night, like State of Origin night was the night to work because it was midweek, people just wanted their pizzas, and you know, everyone would get a little bit tipsy, and they'd always just give me the biggest tips. I remember one night, I'm like 17 years old, I worked for like 2.5 hours and I got paid like $90. And I'm like, what is this? So then I started to realize like there is a way to make more money than the average person, like picking and choosing the days that you work, the times that you work, and making that sacrifice to go, well,
cool.
I'm going to work on the public holiday. I'm going to work on the night where there's a big event. And then I graduated from that job into Rip Curl, where I was walking through Miranda Fair in the Sutherland Shire with one of my mates, Max Morrissey, and both of us just being little rat bags. I think I was about 19 at the time, just had finished school. And I go into the Rip Curl store and I'm just bantering with the girls that are in there, and they go, look, I'm like, oh, can I have a job? Like, is there any chance I can get a job here? Like, I love surfing. I love the surf industry. Like, I love talking to people. Like, can I have a job? And they're like,
Is that the first
laughing.
thing you asked for, or was it a number?
They were a bit older than me, eh? I wasn't going to go asking for their numbers. But they're like, look, if you lift this box up and put it on that shelf, I'll get you an interview. And I'm like, okay, cool. Lifted the box up, gave them my number. There you go. They did get the number at the end of the day. It was just the other way around. And then like 2 days later, I get a call from the big boss, and he's like, hey, I heard the story of you coming into the shop. You know, would love to offer you an interview. Caught up with him. One thing leads to another. End up starting to work full time for Rip Curl. So that's like 19 years of age, out of university, finished up my first little TAFE degree, and then got stuck into full time work straight away. And you know, that was in the city. Like, I used to have to catch the train an hour and a bit to get to the city every single day. Would work 5 days per week, but same thing. It's like when Easter swang around, when, you know, Christmas period swang around, when, you know, all of these things that came up where there was public holidays and I could get public holiday rates, I would put my hand up and go do it because I knew it was less effort for more money. It's like work smarter, not harder. I feel as though that's just been an innate thing that I've had throughout my whole entire life. Plus, something that's allowed me to get promoted in every single job that I've ever had, and always been put in a place where I'm, you know, first point of contact. And I think it's just, you know, I like communicating. I like talking to people. It's just a part of who I am. I'm super extroverted and I like talking to people, and I'm interested in people. So, you know, it's just been a funny progression, but yeah, I don't even know where I was taking that.
I think something that you said that's important there, though, and the reason why a lot of people come into property is there's a fundamental rule in property outside of the fact that historically it's done very, very well, like 11% according to John Lindemann for 100 years, 8.2% a year for the last 50 years according to Simon Priestley. And you can use leverage, and it's one of the only asset classes in the world where you can safely use leverage. So you put down $10 and they give you $9, or you put down $20 and they give you $100. And for me and you, and for most people listening to this, there's an innate desire to work smarter, not harder. And leverage is the perfect example of getting your money working for you. So I think because there's big dollars in it, there's big history and historical performance in it, and there's leverage, it's just like a place that a lot of people end up finding their start.
For sure, but I also think, like, growing up where we grew up, we watched a lot of people go through life the hard way. And I've said this before, but like being observant of that and just going, okay, well, that's one way of doing things, but they don't look like they're living their best life. And then you see the other end of the spectrum where you got these business owners, you got these people that have more freedom than the average person, they're doing cool things. It's just like, I want that. I prefer that lifestyle rather than, you know, life happening at you. It's more like life is happening for you.
And the thing about you and I, with all of the roles we ever had, we did directly work with a lot of the owners or like the major people in each of the businesses. Like my story's similar. Like I found out that I could make money early. Like I did the lemonade store once because mum and dad set it up, and then I'm like, I want to do this lemonade store every day. Like, and I put the lemonade store out the day after, and dad's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, the shop's open. Shop's open. And this is like when I'm like probably 7.
Seriously.
And then I found that like I could pick flowers from the neighbours' yards and wrap them in alfoil and go door to door, and like people would pay me $2 for flowers. There was 11 boys in our street. Like they were all within 2 years of my age. And so I created a club called the Outdoor Kids Club. And most of the club was about having the best time. And because like mum and dad were looking after you guys, I had a lot of freedom. And we lived on the beach,
real quick.
the bush, on a very safe street.
Yeah.
And so it was just me and these kids. And then a couple of the kids' parents really didn't mind what we did. And so we got to do cool stuff as little kids, like just innocent stuff.
This is the early 90s as well.
Yeah,
different world back then.
80s parents just getting boozed up and just everything was cool.
Swingers parties and
whatever they're doing.
whatever they were doing.
But yeah, I did that, and then I remember mum saying to me, she's like, you can get a job when you're 13. And I was like 12, and I'm like, what if I just get a job now? And so I went around and made a little resume with mum. And I just door knocked every single shop in Engadine. And then a shop that was called Billabong Takeaway, but we called it Cockroach Corner.
Yeah.
And it was like the local fish and chip shop. They're like, yeah, you can work. And they didn't ask me my age. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm in.
There are no questions asked kind of business.
The first job I had at 12 was like $14 an hour. Plus it was a 3-hour shift, and they gave me half an hour off in the middle because I would just grab the food and then walk out the back and talk to the old people. And I'm like, I don't think anyone else was doing it in the shop, but I did it. And then they just kept letting me do it. And then they'd let me take food home for the whole family after. So we were living off like battered sabs, chips, burgers, all like this stuff for a long time, pineapple fritters.
You were working there for a while, eh?
I worked there for like until I got to Widows later on.
Yeah.
But these guys were, like, little did I know until later, like fucking gangsters.
Yeah.
And they were like the
Korean
tripod,
gangsters, right?
like they were, and I found out later on, had to run away from Darwin, and they'd opened up this shop. And so I'm just this kid working in this shop, getting good cash in hand. Like they were very relaxed with me. And that was my first experience. And they were hardcore too, because they were gangsters, not fish and chip owners, and they worked their asses off. There was no where to hide. Like the second I wasn't doing something, like hit with the broom, like on the ass or something like that, bam, like go. And so these people were like great to work with. They protected me heaps. They like taught me about how to look after people, how to work hard, as had dad. And I went from that to Widows, which was great for the same reason as you. Like we're making way more money than we should have been earning at that age. And I think those first experiences of like getting freedom, getting trust from the actual business owner, and like getting good money changed things. And so I went down the line, and a few years, I tried to go to uni straight after school, and I just was not ready for it. There was like 9 of my mates that all went in the same year, and every single one of them but 2 of them dropped out in the first, before they could. But I was like hanging in there, and I like did the first 6 months, and then I pulled out. And I remember sitting with like the boys watching State of Origin at home at Atherton, and we're all sitting around. I'm like, I just said randomly, I'm like, who wants to come to Europe? And like 4 of the other guys were like, let's do it. And so the next day went up to the travel agent, got stitched up, probably paid 3 times more than we were supposed to.
You hate that, eh?
But we ended up going to Europe for a couple of months and on this tour. And when I came back, I'd seen more. I'd seen different things than where we grew up in South Sydney, in an area where like if you rented, that was good. If you weren't on housing commission, that was good. And if you owned your own home, you'd made it. And so I'd just seen something, and then I came back and I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was lost. And I did like the work that someone that doesn't have skills can do. So I poured drinks,
Yeah.
I waited tables, I carried bricks, I did landscaping, I worked in bottle shops. Like I worked as an elevator lift mechanic. And there's so many stories there.
Oh my God. Some
But
of the
yeah,
tradie stories that both of us have,
and I worked for Dad
want to
as
be
well.
tradies.
Yeah, and then I got to the point after 2 years of doing that sort of stuff where I'm like, I now know what I don't want to do, and I shut a lot of doors, and that's when I went to uni to sort of start figuring it out / get that next dose of freedom before the real world.
I can relate to that massively as well because, like, you know, I went to Europe at 19, spent all the money that I earned from Rip Curl, and then came back and started working at surf camp, which is just the best thing ever. I quit my job at Rip Curl to go traveling, and then
Surf camp's like teaching people to surf.
yeah, like as I was like I had about a month left of my travel, I get a message from the owner of Surf Camp Australia, and he's like, "Hey, what are your plans when you get back to Australia?" And I'm like, "I don't have any." And he's like, "Do you want a job?" So I literally came back straight into an epic job, and that was literally just teaching people to surf. I started as a surf coach, living down on the south coast of New South Wales, just living the best life, spending the days on the beach, like talking to travelers, and you know, there'd be two different camps. You'd have like the backpackers that had come down during the week, and then you'd have like everyone, like corporate businesses and like, you know, couples and, you know, groups of friends that wanting to surf and learn to surf on the weekends as well.
South American girls, like just everyone.
But that's where I met this American girl, and we started dating, and you know, I went over to America, and she's like full American, and like, you know,
Yes, sir. No, sir.
full on, like from Mississippi, like very southern draw, everything. But she went to uni, and it's like obviously exposing myself to America. Like growing up in the Sutherland Shire, it's rare if you don't become a tradie. It's so rare. So my whole friendship group, we were all tradespeople. I didn't really have that many friends that actually went to university. But then I go to America, and everyone goes to university. And we went to her uni called Emory, same one that Into the Wild went to. That guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Alexander
Supertramp. And, you know, they're like most amazing university that you've ever seen. But like, I remember going there, but I also remember going to her dad's business. Her dad was the right-hand man of an extremely successful commodities trader. Like this dude was on the Forbes top 50 or top 100 list. Like
Big
her
dog.
dad would, you know, fly all over America, just having meetings and things like that. He took me to his office. I got to see it all. And I'm like, how much does that guy make? And he's like, oh yeah, he's one of our sales guys. He's earning $100,000 a month. And I'm like, oh, I haven't heard that type of money before in my
Yeah.
life. So it just opened me up to this different world. And then, you know, it sort of gave me this motivation to be like, well, I should get an education. You know, I'd done TAFE, and then I was like, well, instead of jumping in the deep end and going to uni, I'll go do a business management course at TAFE, dip my toe in the pool, see if I like it, loved it. And then I was like, well, that was a prerequisite to get me into a uni degree. And because I'd done a couple of TAFE courses, it knocked a year off my uni degree as well. But I remember vividly like going, okay, well, what am I going to do at uni? I go, who earns the most money into Google? And it came up, Google's marketing manager. And I'm like,
That's a
okay,
stitch up.
well, I'm going to go do a commerce degree. I'm going to go do marketing and management. It appears as though CFOs, COOs, CEOs, CMOs, like these were the guys that were earning the most money according to Google.
Someone
like,
with a C at the front.
someone with a C at the front. So I'm like, commerce, management, marketing. So I
Let's
was
start
like,
with the C.
stuff it. I'll go do that. And, you know, it was obviously to get skilled in an area that's valued by the rest of the world. But it's funny how like you meet people along your journey through life, and they sort of shine a bit of a light on something that you weren't aware of. You know, do you have those people in your life that were like, that shone a light on something that you weren't aware of that helped, I guess, knock you in the right direction?
Is that a question?
That's a question.
Okay, that was a mad transition. Just like,
I need to end my stupid stories.
I love the stories, bro. I'm into it. Okay, yeah. Let me answer that question with another question. No, so for me, let's go going to uni. Going to uni was amazing, but I moved up to the sunny coast from Sydney and I was so broke, man, like beyond broke. So my budget looked like this. I was able to earn 200 and something bucks a week from Centrelink, and then they let you earn 129 or $140 a week in another job. And so, and working more than that cut the Centrelink back to the point where you're working for free unless you went to like 30 hours a week. So I was kind of like in this limbo. And so I was able to spend $85 to $100 a week was my max budget for a rent. And luckily it was in a pre-COVID world where you could just do the London thing and get heaps of people in a house. Some of the houses that you came through,
Oh,
like there was
bro.
a fair few people living in them.
Yeah, they were the best places though. So nostalgic.
And I was sort of just basically doing what I could. So working in cafes again, bars, working, doing labouring for that whole time. Or actually like I got a job as a cleaner, which was so sick because I was cleaning this hotel. And then I started to notice that a lot of the rooms were empty and I was living in this share house and I'd met my like now wife, then girlfriend, Lisa. And I'm like, do you guys mind like if we just like take the room when they're free and then I'll just clean them the next morning? And so we started to get this like waterfront Alexandria Headlands lifestyle like multiple days a week until they conned on that I was like semi-living there. And they're like,
What they don't
okay.
know don't hurt them.
Well, yeah, I was like transparent about it, but I think that
a
taught
sick
me so
lifestyle.
much. Like, firstly, I learned that when I love something, and I fell in love with learning. I fell in love with learning before that. Like when I was working, before I knew what I wanted to do, I was just reading books a week. Like I was just with this mind and my desire. I just felt uncomfortable in my skin, but I didn't know what was next. And uni really gave me that I can reinvent myself because I'm still so tight with like the people we grew up with, but I also got a chance young to just recreate myself. And a lot of the culture in Sydney was boozing and partying and soccer and surfing, where up here it was just surfing, skateboarding at that time, and just training every day and not drinking.
Yeah.
And so I met other people that were like that. And I remember like times like where Lisa's like, when we first met, your car used to like do this jumping thing. And I'm like, yeah, because it had no petrol in it most of the time and I couldn't afford to fill it up properly. And I remember like at least 5 or 6 times just leaving it on the side of the road because it ran out of petrol.
Jumping on the skateboard.
I remember breaking like the back window accidentally and then not being able to replace it for 2.5 years. And so every time it rained, which was a lot on the sunny coast, it would just like flood the car. And just that humble life, like running out of money, or getting like going overseas with like anything I could save and then coming back to no job and being like, if I don't find a job in the next 2 days, I'm stuffed. And like friends coming around with just rice and like barbecue sauce and they're like, you know, you can live off this for the next week and like having to do that. And so I think it really humbled me. But about 2.5 years into my 4-year degree, I really got a shot of, okay, like I'm ready to start the next phase. And so at that point, I went and did internships with like Queensland Health, Queensland Government, local government, Parsons, Brickenhoff, Oxfam. And through those internships over that last year and a half, World Environment Day, I did like a project with as well. And I started to read different stuff because uni by that point was like, I got it pretty wide. It still sucked around exam time. It still sucked that feeling like you always got something to do. But I read this book and it was John McGrath's book, Born to be Great or something like that. And
Can't remember it.
I can't remember the title either, but John McGrath, the big real estate mogul. And then from reading that book, I then picked up Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I remember this is early stages with my wife. And I was so into the book. We were going to a party to like meet heaps of her friends. And at the time, like I still like partying now every now and then. But like at that time, like I would have happily just sunk beers all day. They had 3 or 4 friends that were all DJs in the best nightclubs and they were all DJing that day on the water, sunny, 30 degrees. And I like get there, I say hello to everyone. Then I walk to the sun lounger and I just read this book all day. And Lisa still talks about it. She's like, it's one of the rudest things I've ever seen a human do to any other people. And I'm like, I still think some of her friends fucking hate me to this day because of that. But
You're an all-in kind of guy, though, right? You've always been that.
I
It's
couldn't
like,
put it down.
nah, yeah.
And when you asked at the start why real estate, it's because of that book. If he had
Yeah.
said, go do crypto, gold, stocks,
Right.
I'd be doing that
Yeah.
probably. I so believed in it and it made so much sense to me. And I was so ready to get the start of my calling that there was never a plan B after that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you know,
No, I like it. It's you know, thank God that those things happen, and
I'm
you know,
so grateful and blessed because
you
of
get
that.
it. And it's like, thank God I dated Teresa and met her dad and went through that office, because then I was like, okay, commerce, and then I was on this trajectory to go like corporate Sydney, and like that was the goal. And then still worked at surf camp, and then went back to Rip Curl, and you know, that sort of got me by throughout that uni period. And then I remember, you know, getting a call from you, and I was kind of a bit lost at the time. I'd broken up with that girl, and, you know, I was sort of living in Sydney. I was at uni and I was working part-time, and, you know, all of my friends were starting to, you know, gain some traction, because they're now, you know, in their early to mid 20s, and they're all earning, you know, 80, 100, 120 grand per year as fully qualified tradespeople. And I just felt like, you know, I was on a bit of a different path. And then you came down to Sydney, and I was living at Dad's at the time, and I was studying for uni, and you'd already, I can't remember what you were doing for work at the time, but you were working from Dad's, and we're just hanging there, just chatting as brothers. And then I think I got like a pop-up ad on my computer, or I was probably procrastinating.
I would have been doing pump by then for sure.
I
Because I
think you
started
may
pumps
have.
at 29.
Yeah, it may have been. So I would have been, yeah, I reckon 23, 24 at the time. It's 2016, actually.
Yeah.
So it would have been.
Going.
One of us was procrastinating, and then this deal came up, and it's like,
Oh,
hey,
that's right.
I think it was return flights to the US for $800, right?
That's right.
And we were just like, fuck, are you in? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in if you're in. And then we both messaged like 5 or 6 friends or more, maybe 10 friends, and we just sent them the deal and said, I'm in, are you in? And
We're
like
booking flights today.
everyone just responded, I'm in. There ended up being what, 12 or 14 of us?
I
at the-
thought there was 8 or 9.
Oh, mate,
maybe
8 or-
there was 10 because you had mates over there that were coming in
Yeah.
too.
But anyways, it was a huge group of people. We all went on this America trip, and just, it was sort of the last hurrah for you and your mates, and you know, trying to keep up with me and Brad, which was a bad idea.
Yeah, you threw it the like.
We're
time.
23, 24, can handle everything and anything. And it was a big boozy trip. Like, we went to the college football games, we went to Vegas, we went like, had that sick day on Santa Monica where we're like hiring bikes and going doing workouts outdoors, and went for a swim in the ocean. It was freezing cold at that
So
time.
good.
That was just such a good trip. And I remember getting back and just getting a call from you, and you said, look, man, like, get out of Sydney, come up to the Sunshine Coast, I'll give you a job, see if you like it. If you like it, great. If you don't, you can always leave and go back to Sydney. And then it was just like, you know, the perfect timing for you and the business, but then also for me and where I was at. And I'm like, look, I've still got to finish uni. And you're like, I remember vividly, you're like, fuck uni, like, it'll be all right, you don't need it. And I'm
Sorry,
like,
guys, this is not advice. This is not Ben's advice. But
I'm like,
I knew you were going to be sweet
like,
because of what I knew.
bro, I have 1 semester to go. I'm going to finish that off. I'll move up, but if I can, you know, work 4 days per week, and then I can do uni on the extra day and the weekends. And then you're like, yeah, cool. So I decided, like, let's go.
Which I actually can't believe you did do that. Because you were training and surfing a lot up here, you were working your ass off, and you were trying to finish uni. There was a lot going on at the start.
Trying to meet new friends as well, and I was
Yeah.
going out a lot back then as well, because like, it's hard to meet friends in your mid-20s in a new town without sort of going out and about. But it worked out at the end of the day, and it was such a fun time of life. But yeah, I just remember getting towards like the back end of that uni degree and just being like, I am so done with this. I've found it. Like, it was a penny drop moment, because years before that you did hand me Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I started to realize, oh, this like corporate path that I'm on is not the right path, but I'm still doing this university degree, and I can't justify leaving. Like, I need to finish something. I need to do something for myself. I started to get that like drive that everyone gets in their early to mid 20s, where it's like, I need to do something
I
for
want to
myself.
figure something out.
That's it, yeah. And then, you gave me that opportunity, and then I'm like, this is super, super fun. But I moved to Queensland. I remember doing a road trip up here. I had to borrow money off my dad to pay for petrol and food on the way up here. And then I moved in with mum when I moved up here as well. And fortunately, she gave us free accommodation and fed me and everything like that. But I was broke as fuck. I had I was negative $2,000 in my bank account, which at the time I was probably only earning $300 per week. So it felt like a lot. And then obviously going into full-time work, and then I just dove in the deep end because same as you at university, I finally had a teacher that taught me how to learn. And then when you were like, hey, read this book, read that book, listen to this YouTube video, listen to this podcast, listen to these audio books, like you were just sort of throwing everything at me, and I was just a sponge, and I knew...
And you actually did do it, which is the unique thing.
Well, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was cool stuff to learn about. And I'm like, oh, this all makes sense now.
Yeah.
And it was at the perfect time in my life. And then, there's so much more to it, obviously, from there. But like that journey up until 22, just not giving a rat's about anything. And then that 22 to 24 was the biggest change in my mental capacity throughout like my life up until that point in time. And then, I really feel as though my life and what it is today began at sort of 24 when I moved up here to the Sunshine Coast.
No, I love that, man. And I think at 24 as well, like things started to massively change for me. So I'd finished uni in 2009, but Lisa was doing a course, and I'd just been craving going back to Sydney. I'm like, I've had a great time at uni. The sunny coast was only ever supposed to be like a fun stop, and the plan was always to go back to corporate Sydney and kill it one way or another. And so I applied for literally like over 200 grad programs, and then I got into IBM's grad program, which was like a very good program at that particular time. And it still has been a good door opener for me all the way through my journey since that point. So I waited the year, and I'd got into the program, but I had to postpone it for the year after. And I've got money coming in. So my first job, I was getting a 60 grand base. Then I had 2 projects with the state government where I was getting 10 grand off each of them. And I had like this little thing going on through the local council where I was making about 5 to 10 grand. So I was like, on my first year out of uni, I was on 90K.
Always got like a few different things coming in as well, right?
These little things were going on because I was very active at that point. Like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And because of that, cool stuff comes towards you, and you're just out there.
Yeah, as you said, you're opening doors.
Yeah. And I remember saving like what was my first deposit, and then my mate came up. We went to a waterfall for a walk on like a Sunday, and he's like, I'm thinking about going to America. I'm like, when? He's like, oh, like Friday. And I'm like, I'll come. So we went back home, booked the flights, and then we're off to America. And I went, I was probably 24. And I spent my entire house deposit in 2 weeks because I'd been living like such a pauper at uni for 4 years. I just sent it. Just had the funnest time ever.
Pent up energy and like...
Yeah, I just wanted to like have fun and actually live like the other half live, or whatever they say.
We've seen all of our friends traveling and doing all this stuff because they had the money from being tradies.
Yeah, and so I went over there, had fun, came back. My like now father-in-law, but literally I remember sitting at his house, and he like actually slapped me in the face, and he's like, "You fucking don't do this again." Like, you know what I mean? Like you need to like figure out a future. So I went straight back to saving, and then at 24 I bought my first place with 2 friends in Sydney. I remember the day that we bought it, we went out for dinner and just got absolutely shit-faced, and we thought we were the kings of the world. We're like, we talked, we're going to build this empire. We're all going to be free by the time we're 30. We're going to do this together for the rest of our lives. And then I remember like getting the cash, like we didn't have a property manager, and I'd collect the cash, and then I'd go straight down to Northies, give the money to my 2 mates, and we wouldn't leave until we spent the whole paycheck. And we did that for the first full year.
How are you paying for the mortgage? Just like doing it?
I don't know, just paying it. Just paying it. But because it was 3 of us and it was like a $300,000 loan.
True,
it was 100 grand each.
True that.
6%, $6 grand a year, $100 a week. And I was working at IBM, and I still had, on Saturdays, I was working for a friend's brother who's was one of the most successful people in Ray White in New South Wales. And then I was doing a project management course at night. And then I was still doing this consulting to the Queensland government. And I was just all in, and I was buying these properties, and every weekend I was having fun, and I was also spending all day driving up the Central Coast and Wollongong. And so like after 4 months after buying that first property, I'd saved enough again living with mum to go buy another property. And I bought like a 5-bedroom home with a granny flat that was renting for $600 a week for $213,000.
Just wild, right?
Crazy. And what was crazy is it was in the GFC or the end of it. And I realized that most importantly at that time, there is opportunity when other people don't see it. Warren Buffett says, like, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. And I wasn't greedy. I just didn't know how bad things had been for the few years before that. And because
Ignorance
of that,
is bliss, right?
every
Sometimes.
time I went out, there was no one at these open homes. Everything was dirt cheap because Sydney up until that point had done almost nothing for a while. And we were just lucky enough to get into an up and comer.
Yeah, no, it's such good timing, and like hindsight's 2020, and yes, there's a degree of luck there, but at the end of the day, like you still did all of those things. You had the multiple jobs, you were disciplined and made sure that you saved that money. Had the bad stories of like going and blowing it all. So it's like there's a saying in The Richest Man in Babylon, the goddess of luck favors men of action. It's like you still got to put yourself in that position to be able to take action and do something. So it's funny how it just snowballs from there as well. And I feel as though, once I came up here and it's like, hey, read this book, listen to that audio book, and I'm listening, to you and Crystal talk to our clients about these things and learning, just a big sponge and taking it all in. And then I'm like, this is it. Like, this is what it's all about. Like, it is all about land. It is all about, acquiring assets, good quality assets. And so it was simple for me as well. Like, my lifestyle is a lot better today than it was back then. But at the time, I still just kept living off a low salary, and I just kept my living expenses really low, but I'm earning money. So my savings rate just went through the roof. And I remember trying to compete against Crystal, because I remember Crystal started working, and she, took her 18 months to save the deposit and get the first property. And I think she did it just at 25. And then, I was like, I'm going to beat her. So I had this competitive mentality, and I'm like, I'm going to do it before Crystal. I'm going to save harder and go faster. But I did the exact same amount of time, like 18 months. And just after my 25th birthday, I bought my first property.
And it wasn't like after the GFC, I put a 2.5% deposit down for those first two properties, actually 2.5 and 5. And they were giving you free LMI, lender's mortgage insurance, and I got free stamp duty on the first one. Like, what I've also learned is after a GFC, they'll do anything they can to pump money into the economy and get it going again. And so
during the recovery.
But
yeah, that wasn't the case. Like, this was end of 2018, so it was just after the Royal Banking Commission.
You needed big deposits.
Yeah, but still, I got away because I was a first-time buyer. Still didn't get any access to any of the grants because I wanted to invest. So I still had to pay my stamp duty. I still had to pay LMI, but I didn't give a crap about paying $8,000 in LMI, because I bought the property, and then 3 months later, I'd made that back 3 times over in capital gains.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get caught up about, especially first timers that are young with a low deposit, with a low income. It's like, if the market's not performing well and, you've got time on your side, which is never the case, go for it. Sit on the sideline, see if your savings rate is faster than the capital growth rate. But for me, I was like happy to pay, and I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to Aaron, the mortgage broker, and I'm talking to Hannah, the accountant, and it's just like, they're just like, look, it's $8,000. It's not really going to impact you, but it'll get you into the market now. So I did it. And then 12 months later, bought my second one. By 28, I'd bought 4 properties with my now wife, and, it just happened really quick. So what was on my side at that time, like, you bought just after the GFC at a great time for that market that you chose to invest in. Something that was outside of my control that I look back on in hindsight and go, thank God for that, but also thank God for taking advantage, was the chronically low interest rates. Like, between 2018 and 2022, when I bought my properties, I don't think I paid more than a 4% interest rate. You know, it was like anywhere between 2.5 and 4%, which is just so low.
Please bring it back.
I know. So it's just like the holding
I'm
costs
fixing
were
for the rest of
easy.
my life if they ever get to 3% again.
Yeah. And then, you know, they obviously went up and that got a bit harder, obviously, at that point in time. And, you know, I've had to make some changes to the portfolio, but it's all worked out far more, to the point now where I was doing the math before. And you know, I guess to round out this potty, you know, my property's combined value after selling one is now $3.6 million, and the debt position is about 1.6 mil. So, you know, it's absolutely worked out now that
That's
I'm
incredible,
7
bro.
years into my investment
And
journey.
you're only 7 years in. And people could be sitting there and going, well, you know, I get that. You know, put yourself in our 24-year-old shoes, or just, you know, 30-year-old shoes, like a lot of our friends, or 40 that haven't done it. And it's like, well, yeah, you guys were just lucked out on Queensland post-COVID, but it's like, you know, Melbourne is the new Queensland. And I can almost guarantee people 10 to 15 years from now will be looking back and going, man, that golden run of Melbourne. And there's still incredible opportunity up here too. There's great opportunity in Adelaide, Darwin, Perth still. There is always a place, and as we've gone through a full cycle now, we've realised that just as Sydney peaks out, Melbourne looks good. And just as Melbourne peaks out, Brisbane looks good. And just as Brisbane's getting expensive, Perth opens up. And, you know, and it's moving. And then by the time all of them have run and everyone's chased the shiny thing there, we're back to the start of it all again. And I think there's a dance almost with property once you understand the data and the history of it. And once you've looked at enough of it, you can start to see these patterns that other people miss.
And you know, I think something that's motivated me is missing as well. Like, I missed the Perth run. I saw it and I was in a position to do something about it, but I didn't, because I didn't know Perth, and I felt concerned about it. And then same with Townsville. I remember going up to Townsville and just being like, this place is dirt cheap. Was in a position to do something,
400K then.
did nothing, and then have watched it happen. So it's like, even given the amount of experience that both you and I have, and the fact that we have taken some risks, some educated risks, like we are also conservative, and we've missed out on opportunities. But, you know, I'm not missing out on this Melbourne opportunity. And, you know, like I find it so exciting to try and like follow the cycles and identify the market, and then identify the suburb within that market or handful, and then identifying the right property within your budget range, and then figuring out, you know, how can I do something to add some value to that property. Like, as you said, it's a dance, it's a game, it's a side hustle, it's everything that I want in life, and fortunately it's the most desired asset on the planet.
It is. It's an incredible thing because people need to live there. And 70% of the market in Australia are people that want to make money out of it, but aren't trading it day in, day out. That's the difference. The lack of liquidity in it and the stability from 70% of the market. And the fact that the Australian government loves it and wants to keep it alive, and it produces so much income for them as well. It's all good things. Like, I think for me, like after picking up that second property, I was pretty broke for a while. We got to the point where my wife was pretty much like, it's Sydney or me, because I look back now, working as much as I was working and being around all my old friends and chasing properties all weekend. I was like distracted, and we were living in Engadine instead of Bondi. You know, it wasn't the Sydney experience, but I was so happy to wait. We had one car at that time, and we actually had one car up until I was in my 30s. I was just so happy, same as you. I came off such a low dose at uni that I'd gotten so used to having like nothing, that I just continued to live like that. Like, we lived until I was like 32 off such a small amount of money week to week. It was insane. Like, our little car was like a $2,000 Toyota Echo with the worst clutch. The clutch was about that long. It was just so bad. And neither of us can drive manual very well either. And so
neither of you can drive auto very well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, we get to the point where Lisa's basically put this ultimatum on me, and so I'm like, can we please just go to Bali and get back to us? So we went to Bali for 2 weeks. We basically just trained and surfed and rested and recovered after all of the craziness that we'd been up to. And we decided at that point, I'm like, the day I got back from Bali, I resigned from IBM, and every single mentor I had at the time was like, this is a really big mistake. And it was a big mistake if I wanted to go down the route that
You're on.
I was on. But something in me, and I was talking to Magella, a client of ours this morning about this, like at some point the friction inside yourself becomes so strong that you have to take action.
Yeah.
And so we went back to Queensland. All of my friends were like, you're going to a retirement village. I'll see you there when we're 70. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just writing off the potential that you have. And then at that point, I went and worked for 3 entrepreneurs. Same as you, like I went off. Like when I came back to Queensland, I bought 4 properties within 2 years or so. Like I really went off. I made some of the biggest of mistakes of my life during that time, like losing money on properties and doing the wrong stuff. But I'm glad I lost it with my own money because I know what it feels when you make a bad decision and then you've got to live with that.
100%.
I know what it feels like to be in negative equity. I know what it feels like to accidentally burn a friend because we're doing it together based on my word without doing the research. And I think because of I was very analytical then, but I didn't know what to look for. And slowly from about 28 to 33, I got obsessed with figuring this out. And that culminated in at 29 or 30 starting this business and helping other people. And the best thing about that was I'd done 6 or 9 properties roughly, maybe 6 when I started and 9 within the first few years. But there were people that I was working with that were 30, 40 years down the line that didn't know Brisbane or the sunny coast or the Gold Coast like I did. And so they'd let me help them do that. But because I'm a sponge, I was just picking their brains and I'm like, I'm sorry, I know you're the client, but I want to learn everything I can. And these people...
That
like,
vulnerability though is, you know, there's something to say about that.
yeah, like people respond really poorly to force and ego, but
Yeah.
they respond really beautifully to yielding and just, I'm just a kid that is constantly learning. And just when I've hit what I think is my learning, the next wave comes and the next wave. And there's people out there that are that clever and that consistent with that much money behind them that
And
we've talked to.
experience, and they can see straight through.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, it's much easier because I was working with lots of millionaires when I wasn't a millionaire, because I was working with people that were so much further ahead in their financial freedom journey than I was. I'm just like, I just know Brisbane and I'll smash it for you. But you know everything else that I want to know and I want to learn. And speaking to thousands of people like that, all of a sudden you go, well, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? This did. And that was overlaying the John Lindemann stuff, the SQM stuff, the Matusik stuff, the Phil Anderson stuff, the Fred Harrison stuff,
The homely stuff.
the homely stuff, and all like the DSR stuff, like the walk score stuff, all of the stuff we did with Ryan at On Property, all of the stuff that Jeremy Shepherd and Ripehouse was saying at that time.
Just compounds.
And all of a sudden we started to build out this framework for what best practice property investing looks like, not from fucking someone that's gone and done a few things, but from us buying hundreds of millions of dollars worth of property and going, this works, this doesn't. And at that time, we were like OCD, like we were changing our processes and what we thought was best practice like weekly
And
as better data came in.
And I think the best thing about who we are is we still do that. Like, you know,
Last week I changed all our suburbs up again.
you just got to constantly have that learner mentality, like where you are a beginner. You don't have all of the answers, because as soon as you think that you know better than anybody
You're
else,
dead.
you know, the market will tell you what's real and what's not real quick. And so you just got to constantly adapt to new information. And like when you first started investing to now, like think about the changes. Like I don't even know if YouTube existed when you first bought that property. And if it did, it was like, you know,
Early, I wasn't spending much time on it except looking at like
Very early
bios and
days.
documentaries.
yeah, and not common, and not an app that you could have on your phone. You know, so that obviously changed. But now we've got access to like artificial intelligence. And so, you know, what used to take us weeks to collate and collect all of the data and all the information to put together our suburb data and to figure out what is better, now it's just like obviously we've got that blueprint, which makes it a lot easier and a lot quicker to do it. But then you've got other information or other resources that you can use to, maybe see some blind spots, or like, look at some other parameters that you haven't taken into consideration. And it's like, if you're not using these things, then you are just going to get left behind.
Yeah, like 9 to 12 months ago, we were very, very Brisbane, Townsville focused. And then we worked with someone who really understands AI and coding. And he's got a lifetime of experiences. And he helped us create something where we can look at every market in Australia, state, capital city, major regional market, across all of the indicators that we know result in meaningful medium-term, long-term gains. Every suburb within those markets is far out as 60 k's from the city point, and compare one market versus another, or one suburb versus another. And it was at that point that we went, I said to you, I'm like, something's wrong with the suburb data set for Melbourne. And I asked the dude to go check it. And when he came back to me, he's like, there's nothing wrong with it. That's how it is. I'm like, but everyone says that Melbourne's the same as Sydney and it's overpriced and something's wrong with it. And he's like, well, I can't, there's no bug in the way that we've created this. And I said, so it took me like literally 3-4 months to wrap my head around it, looking on realestate.com and going, something's fucking off here. And then what I realized was off is people's opinions, again, don't match data sets. And that's why we're into Melbourne. That's why you and I are personally excited about it. In terms of the 423 suburbs in Brisbane, there's a couple of handfuls now that still look great. And there's a whole lot of stuff I wouldn't touch.
Yeah, 100%.
And when I looked at Perth and Adelaide and Darwin and Townsville and the Mornington Peninsula and Geelong and Sydney and Melbourne and Newcastle, and things start making sense when you get more perspective. And instead of like walking with the hand in front of your face, which is your own bias, you start to see things with perspective, experience, other people's lessons.
Exactly.
And I'm so grateful for this journey, because I was my own test dummy. Like I did renos, I did builds, I did subdivisions, I did Airbnb, I've done commercial, I've done my own homes, and it was with my money. It wasn't theoretical on YouTube, it wasn't on a potty, it wasn't from these books, it was my money based on my ability to put that cash down. And I fucked up so many times, and I've sold almost all of the properties I ever bought now. But now we have like that framework that I'm talking about, which is a system for how to identify undervalued markets, how to pick the right pockets of those markets, then the right suburbs, then the right streets, then the right properties, then the right property types, and how, as you said, to add value. If it's just simple single income buy and hold, or if it's houses with granny flats for cash flow and tax plus growth, or if it's the cool stuff that you've fallen in love with again recently as you've reinvented yourself around subdividing duplexes and knowing how to clean up on them now as well.
Yeah, like you just got to be willing to adapt to new information and changes within the market and within yourself as well. And, like the strategy that you set out to achieve, obviously absolutely annihilated that. But it's changed so many times throughout the journey. And even now you've got to sort of reset your own expectations and goals for the future. And I think that's a good thing about doing this together, because we've both got that growth mindset. We both see ourselves as beginners, and we also understand what works. And it's like we get to sit down every day, every week, and talking about these ideas, and the amount of different ideas we've bounced off each other, and just being like, that's just a conversation, and let's not take it any further than that.
Yeah.
Versus there's times where like, I'm actually really excited about that, and I think that's a really good opportunity. Like let's go for it. And just being surrounded by a network of community of like-minded people. Like every single person in the business has investment experience, has been following this stuff for 5 to 10 or 15 years plus. Everybody's got some skin in the game and is doing it themselves, and everybody wants to become a better version of themselves. And even though me and my wife laugh about it and are very grateful for it, we find ourselves living our dream if we're assuming that we're our 20-year-old selves.
Yeah.
So we did achieve all of those goals, but now it's like, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to just plateau and just stay with what we've got? And yeah, like that could be one way of doing things, but then I just know that throughout this journey from 13 years of age up until, you know, I'm almost 33 years now, so 20 years, I've realized that it's not about any destination. No goal or any achievement is going to make you any happier,
No.
but it is the pursuit of.
Yeah.
And the pursuit of that is what gets you out of bed in the morning. It's what keeps me disciplined. It's what gets me excited, brings joy to my life. And there's so many other aspects to it now. It's not just about the money, and fortunately that money piece is taken care of. So now I can lean more into being a better dad, being a better husband, being a better brother, a friend, a son. I can lean into becoming healthier, and you know, because I'm very well financially set up at an early stage of life, I've got the money to afford advice from nutritionists and naturopaths and doctors and people that are going to help me on that journey. And you know, what I'm really excited about as I get through this hectic phase of having young children is, you know, where you're at, and leaning into my spirituality. And it's just always finding something that, you know, you can refine and you can get a little bit better at. And oh man, it just makes me so pumped on
I
life.
love that so much, bro. Like, I really just enjoyed just listening to you say that stuff as well, because it is a journey. And I think it all started for me, and it all starts for almost every person listening to this, is like, there's like a little itch or like a tickle there that's like, you can be more than you are, but you don't have to be. Becoming more isn't going to change anything. It's not going to magically rewire your brain when you have everything that you ever wanted. You're going to be the same person on that day. So like you said, it is the pursuit of your best self. It is the pursuit of meaningful work. It is the pursuit of passions and interests. And I just happen to deeply, deeply care about people. I deeply care about the work we do. I really, really enjoy property because I found a vehicle at 22 that by 40 this year has made me fully financially free. If I choose to get rid of that freedom and go into more debt, then that's my choice. But like, you and I can both never ever work again. And in the future, if we decided to do that today and just go back to normality, we're financially peaceful, we're financially secure, and we will be financially free once our properties are owned outright. And that is, it's not a secret to life. Like, I actually feel like being financially free can sometimes be a crutch of just going, well, I feel safe because of this stability, versus like my spirituality being my freedom and my purpose and my thing now. And so I'm aware of the double-edged sword, but we were looking at something that one of our clients and a good friend of ours, Greg, who's in New York, just bawling out, but also excited to come back to normality as well soon, sent to us the other day. And this is the beautiful thing, like, our clients are constantly sending us these beautiful things because they're growth people too. And the title was How Much Is Enough, or Enough Is Enough. And it went into being able to define how much is enough, which our lizard brains can never ever do for us. And then once you know what's enough, well, what are you continuing to get out of bed for, and what are you continuing to work towards? And it is the service of others with your time, with your skill set, with your knowledge, with the person you were created to be and the person that you're meant to become, but also with your money. Like, I am so much more generous now in my time and also my money than I could have ever been at uni when I was earning $314 per week. And like, I just couldn't afford to get outside myself. And I think the gift that working towards freedom gives you financially is purpose in the mundane and on the hard days and when things not working out, because you know why. And then when you get there, the gift is the turnaround and pull as many people up as possible around you. And this is what this is all about. Like, I really do see this as service, as part of my purpose and part of my calling for being here, as well as all of the other stuff we do, to just go, fuck yeah. Like, it is amazing. Like, I think in the last 2 and a bit years, you and I have been able to give, what, $140,000 to the local charity. Like, that's how much...
Which has influenced thousands and thousands of families, like real families.
So much for the better. And I think about that. Like, I think about what would it look like to be able to take our mum's like stuff away, or to pay off our sister's home loans completely outright without them even knowing. I think about how cool it would be to give my father-in-law, who busted his ass his whole life and ended up in a good position, a brand new 300 series because all he obsesses about is caravanning. Like I think about those things now, like for Christmas, being able to give all of my brothers and sisters like 10K and go, where are we all going this year as a family holiday without even anyone having to think about it? Because not all of our family members have come on this journey. Heaps have. Like, fuck, we've set a lot of people up. So many of your friends came on the journey. Not that many of mine did because I was so young and green at the start that by the time like it was all working out, they were just into the young kid phases or like early careers or big debt on their own homes that they skipped it. Where a lot of your mates were like, I can see this is working already because what you did, what Crystal did, what Ben did, and I don't have those like the serious stages of life yet. I'm just going to invest. And all of them just balled out. Like one of your mates is just about to put $1 million cash in the bank.
Yeah, yeah, he is. And one of our other mates, like even different story, he just like has no idea about investing, but he's just like, hey, I've seen you do it. Here's my money. And, you know, he's just sold that property like 13 months later, and he made a $110,000 net profit in 12 months on top of his, you know, $100,000 salary. So he made an extra $100,000. And I was like, look, you're making a mistake by selling this thing. But he's like, and I want to,
That money's changing for
like,
you.
I want to buy an engagement ring. I want to propose. I want to pay for a wedding. I want to pay for a honeymoon. Like I've got bills that I want to pay. Like I'm at that stage.
love
It's like
that.
the property gave me the ability to provide my future wife with, you know, the most incredible engagement ring, you know, experience and all of that. And I'm just like, fuck yeah, like that is an absolute win. And it's just, it comes in all shapes and sizes. It may not be millions of dollars because that might not be the goal, but you know, even when I look at Crystal, like she sold that house and it allowed her to go and upgrade to this like incredible dream home that she's in. And
To raise
I've
her
always
three, soon
said
to be
that
4 kids in.
investing just gives you choices and you will choose what those choices are. And it is only up to you. But then what I love about what you're saying is like, once you get past, and I don't mean stays in a bad way, but that selfish phase of life, which everybody needs to go through, you do get to this point where it's like, more selfless and it's more about service and giving and the rising tide lifting all of the ships and you know that is I think what is going to allow us to, you know, die peacefully and be like, fuck, we, you know, yes, we had that decade or two of being selfish and looking out for ourselves, but god damn, that created, you know, 3 or 4 decades of being able to give and support and serve.
I
And
love that
you
so
know,
much.
the short-term pain for the long-term gain, you know, it's working out.
It's such a small phase. I think there's something that I wanted to wrap this with, which is exactly what you said. It's such a short phase, saving and investing and getting the properties that will make you free. People think it's this long, arduous journey. Like you bought all of your properties in what?
2.5, 3 years.
Yeah, like I just continued to accumulate and then sell down and accumulate and sell down for heaps of different reasons. Fear sometimes, excitement other times, greed sometimes, to like pay for these things in my life, to upgrade a home or to improve the quality of the assets. But it doesn't have to be this one-dimensional journey. It can be like this. I'm going to figure it out as I go and just trust that the right information will come in and you'll make the right decision. And I've just enjoyed it so much, man. Like I know the title of this was so clickbaity, and you know, I hate that I can't say what I want to say, which is just like our journey or our story or like, you know, to get real. But I know that the people still listening to this understand where we're coming from. We just truly want the best for every single person listening to this, whether they ever end up booking a strategy session or choosing to work with us or not. We hope that through this journey together, like you get the perspective that itch turns into a fire and that fire turns into like a light around you and the people you care about, where you're living your dream and being your best self and training and treating your partner with respect and being a good dad and starting that business or, you know, changing those careers into that meaningful, purposeful work. And you end up free because the period of buying, which is so fun, is so short-lived. Like I wish I could squeeze like
That's why my
that period out.
strategies change as well a little bit. We were talking about this yesterday off camera. It's like I just love that hunt, and it's just that's what it feels like. It feels like I'm going out there into the wild and finding this needle in a haystack, and you know it's going to give me, you know, the opportunity to feed my family and friends. Like I like it. So I am sort of pivoting my strategy a little bit because I enjoy that part of the process so much. The finding, the buying, the managing, the adding value, and then the selling. And yeah, so I think it's just, there's so many ways to skin a cat, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, what you've done, I'm not doing. What I'm doing, you're not doing to an extent. And, you know, whilst we've got cookie cutter strategies that help the average person get what they need in life, you know, there's so many different avenues that we can go down with this stuff, and that's what's really exciting as well.
I love it, man. Thanks so much for today. Like, that was just
Times.
beautiful to listen, and I'm like, I just love having a laugh about it all as well.
100% funny journey.
G'day guys, my name's Ben and I'm the director here at Pumped on Property, and I just want to say a massive thank you for watching our content today. Now, if you're thinking about buying an investment property in the next 3 to 12 months, then the team and I would love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. In that session, we can talk about exactly where you are right now, where you'd like to be longer term, and we can deeply educate you on the Australian market. And then you can take that information and go and absolutely smash it on your own, or potentially become one of the small number of clients that we work with each week. To book your session, all you have to do is go to www.pumpedonproperty.com and click that book your free strategy session button. But either way, we wish you all the best on your journey as an investor to financial freedom.